So I'm really pleased next up to introduce Kate Surman, who is, I know we have some long words in the field of biology, but I'm going to introduce Kate as a former Royal Electrical and Mechanical Engineer Platoon Commander, which I'm super impressed by. But we're really, really pleased to welcome Kate as a Ewing sarcoma survivor this afternoon. And so I will leave it to Kate to tell you about her story, but she started experiencing symptoms just prior to being deployed to Afghanistan in 2003. So this is a really important story for us all to hear, especially around the importance of kind of adapting and remaining positive and understanding the new normal when going through something like this. So I just want to say thank you so much, Kate, for joining us, and can't wait to hear more about your story. So I will hand over.
Thank you very much for having me. First of all, I wasn't sure whether it was a massive insult or honor to be given the very last slot on a Friday evening of a long week. An insult because you probably all sort of cracked into your beers already and either not here or not listening, or an honor to be following some amazing speakers. Thank you, Sandra. To sort of together endeavor to explore this crazy world of bone cancer and its knock-on effects. But of course, I interpret it as the latter. I'm very honored to be here. So please do share your pints with me for the next 30 minutes. I'm just going to share my screen.
I'd say this is the headline slot, Kate.
As I say, I didn't know how to interpret it, but I will choose the latter.
Absolutely. That looks perfect.
Very good. Cool. So Shakespeare once said, if you prick us, do we not bleed? If you tickle us, do we not laugh? If you poison us, do we not die? And if you wrong us, shall we not revenge? If you give us Ewing sarcoma, what happens? So the reality, we live in this ever-changing VUCA world. It's volatile, it's uncertain, it's certainly very complex, and it's ambiguous. People live with high stress levels in the workplace and at home. But what is certain is that adversity doesn't discriminate. And I found this out firsthand at the age of 29 years old. Until then, I had a fairly not a normal upbringing. Everyone had a normal upbringing, right? It's only now I really realized it was the furthest thing from normal, growing up on the family farm just outside Oxford in the south of England. I loved being on the farm with my dad, and it led to the inevitable conversation of, Mom, Dad, I want to leave school at 16 and come and work on the farm. And they said, don't be so silly, go and get yourself an education first. So I went and joined the army. Just to go back a little bit, I'd just like to say I'm absolutely no speaker, but a real life patient that was thrown this 1 in 2 million delight, and just here to tell a little bit of a story. A fair bit has gone on in my life, so much so I should be about 80 to have fit it all in. I've certainly learned a lot, and I'm not here today to preach or kind of have any answers or anything. But some of you may be able to relate to me or take something away today. I'm not really sure of the composition of the audience, but hopefully that is the case. I've now had the chance to kind of think about my specific learnings, and I'm going to summarize them into sort of 10 resilience signposts that I've called them along the way, and 3 resilience fundamentals that I'm going to share with you. So much against my parents' wishes, I decided to join the army. Things were a little bit different to Oxford High School for girls, where I didn't say boo to a goose. I did an engineering degree. I went to Sandhurst, which is the world-renowned leadership centre, and I was there at the same time as the Princes, William and Harry, if you saw that in the papers at the time. I commissioned into the REME, as Sorrel said, Royal Electrical and Mechanical Engineers. And I ended up going to Iraq and Afghanistan, culminating in commanding 110 soldiers, providing equipment support across Task Force Helmand, fixing various vehicle platforms and weapon systems. I did a Nepali language course and got to command Gurkha tradesmen as well. And I lived for my sport. The opportunities were incredible. One of these amazing opportunities was a sport called kabaddi. This was a crazy Indian sport, and I got to play in the first World Cup that they allowed women to participate in. So it's amazing to be part of a real turning point in women's rights out there in the Punjab in India. We managed to get through to the final and became runners-up to India, the professional players, playing in front of 25,000 people. Quite an amazing experience. Life was tremendous. I had a dream job. I went on lots of adventures. I had fantastic colleagues. I was in the honeymoon period of a new relationship, something that was quite difficult with a life like mine to hold down. I was playing some representative sport. I had leave to take, and following a successful operational tour, and I was feeling fit. Tremendous that was, until life got turned onto its back and trodden on with the biggest, heaviest pair of boots. So at just 29 years old, it's as if I myself had trodden on an improvised explosive device when the consultant told me that all the toothache and pain I'd been experiencing was in fact a malignant tumour that had eaten its way through my jaw, requiring immediate intensive chemotherapy and life-changing surgery to remove it and rebuild it using my left leg. A 1 in 2 million rare form of cancer. Why me? Was I riddled with it all over my body? How would I do my job? I'd let people down. How would I tell my loved ones? Would I ever wear uniform and do my job again? I felt as though my mind was like the clear blue sea, becoming contaminated by thick, black, lumpy oil, unable to see a way out. So I had 6-month extensive chemotherapy and then surgery, cutting from ear to remove my whole lower jaw and replace using 20 centimeters of my left fibula and a load of leg muscle that went under my tongue. I couldn't look in the mirror, but I had done it before. I had faced fear. I had faced pain. I had faced uncertainty and dealing with a string of losses of my career, my home, my fertility, to loss of my hair, my smile, my teeth, and ability to play sports all in close succession was a physical battle, yes. But that was the easy bit. The mental fight was the key. So when we're faced with a challenge, it invariably is presented to us out of the blue, and it shocks us first and fundamentally, and we need to survive. Then we need to adapt to this new situation, adjusting and accepting in order for us to recover. But not just recover to how we were, but learn and grow and bounce forward so we can then thrive in the face of this adversity. And I can only see this now that I'm not engulfed with the enormity of it and I can see clearly again. But this surviving, adapting, recovering, growing, it's being resilient. And it also gives us resilience, and it forms the definition of resilience, really. So resilience allows us to see the opportunity that can arise from a traumatic event. It's the ability to be happy and successful again after something difficult or bad has happened. So to be able to climb these stairs of resilience and strive towards becoming a resilient leader, a resilient colleague, a resilient individual, or even parent, we must adopt the resilient mindset, and we need physiological strength. And I like the concept of like a mental reservoir of strength to call upon when we need it. We need increased self-awareness and have a positive vision and the motivation to strive towards that vision whilst remaining mentally and physically fit to get here. So climbing these stairs to not just survive but prosper, we need to take heed, I found, of 3 fundamental factors. So number 1, resilient people know that suffering is part of human existence. Now, I don't want to offend anyone, but we're not on the BBC, but I found it's easier to say that resilient people know that shit happens, kind of explains it a bit better. So what will help us adopt this mindset? And this is the first of my 3 resilience signposts that I've called them that helped me to discover this fundamental: acceptance. And I think Matthew McConaughey puts it really beautifully whilst addressing the graduates of the University of Houston.
And this should come up on the Jumbotron. Life's not easy. Is it up there? Life is not easy. It is not. Don't try to make it that way. Life's not fair. It never was. It isn't now, and it won't ever be. Do not fall into the trap, the entitlement trap, of feeling like you're a victim. You are not. Get over it and get on with it. And yes, most things are more rewarding when you break a sweat to get them.
So peace is a result of retraining your mind to process life as it is rather than as you think it should be. For months, I would compare myself to the old me. Photographs, the pace on a run, or how high I used to be able to climb. But when I could accept the new, short-haired, weaker, slower, toothless, but alive me, I could accept and I could move forward. I was lucky enough to be part of the Warrior Games, which was really the brainchild that Prince Harry took to develop Invictus Games. And this really helped me with this process. This is one of my biggest learnings from the off: manage your expectations. I expected to keep my long, precious locks and be one of the ones that didn't lose it. I expected to organise social events at my best times between chemo sessions. I expected to be seen by consultants around about my appointment time. I expected to get some sort of teeth within, say, 6 months of surgery. I expected the army to give me a fitness test, and if I passed, allowed me to continue my service. I expected to remain with the man I'd gone through this all with and perhaps have a family. I expected that the preserved ovarian tissue would one day enable me to have children. I would organise social activities between chemos based upon when I should feel well, and then be beside myself when my neutrophil levels were too low and I couldn't have the chemo when it was scheduled. I would go to a hospital appointment with a timing to meet afterwards and got so angry if the consultant was late or spent my whole morning in the waiting room again. I would push consultants as to when I was going to get my teeth. Chemo needed to be the priority, and I needed to be grateful for it whenever I could have it, as ultimately it saved my life and 0 social plans would be made without it. Consultants would only be late if they were held up by another patient that was an emergency and in a worse state than I was. Surely I should be grateful. I still don't have bottom teeth 5 years later. My mouth is still repairing and changing shape, and technology is improving, so more options are available to me, and I'm in more of a stable position to receive the best option for me. James, he was never right for me, and I'm very fortunate he upped and left one day. And the option to use my preserved ovarian tissue wasn't meant to be. I could now get my head around this and start researching other options to try and have children. But in short, having to overcome the bitterness and anger and learn to manage my hugely high expectations and put my life into perspective, find the good and positive in every situation, was the only way. Do something that scares you. So before an important football match to win the league, or before a performance with a paying audience, we practice and we rehearse, and that goes without saying. I think we need to do the same for our own bodies. It needs to know what a challenge feels like. Our minds need to know how it's going to make us feel. What we need to do heights make us freeze? Are we scared of the dark? Can we be on our own for 24 hours? I'm biased, but I think the army gets it right with their concept of adventurous training, and soldiers and leaders not only bond through overcoming a challenge together, but learn an awful lot about what to do when faced with real adversity. So I still felt I needed to do the same. So in February 2019, I petrified myself every day, hiring this motorbike on my own, riding down through the length of Patagonia, through Chile and Argentina. It was beautiful. I spent evenings pitched up wild camping next to a lake, doing a bit of yoga in the morning before moving off on my adventure. It was vast and dramatic, but also cold, treacherous, and lonely conditions. This may look like a beautiful day, but the wind crossing the border from Chile into Argentina was something else. I got knocked clean off my bike and then endured 150 kilometers, clinging on for dear life with no escape. It was brutal. No wonder I hadn't seen anybody on the road. The town, when I finally got there, was awash with travelers that had hunkered down for the last 3 days, not daring to take on these conditions. This experience made me realize I could do it and that I could take on the world. So the next fundamental, resilient people choose where to focus their attention. You need to focus on things that you can change, not what you can't. We're really good at tuning in on the negative. And what made me realize this was the first signpost: take control of the controllables. I did a really interesting exercise when I got sent to Headley Court, which was the Army Rehabilitation Centre at the time. And they were sending me to a mindfulness class that I really was not interested in being there at all. But they sat me down and they said, write down everything you are thinking. So I had a clear page in front of me, okay, and I got furiously scribbling. When am I going to get out of here? I hate it here. Am I ever going to be able to do my job again? Will I ever feel fit and well to play the sports that I love and miss? Where was I going to live if the army medically discharged me? How would I work if I still had all these hospital appointments to attend all the time? Will my scars ever fade? Will I ever get teeth? Will I ever be able to have children? I hate the fact I can't smile. My hair makes me look like a boy. I hate it. Then I got asked to put an F next to all the things that referred to the future, P next to all the things that were past, and C next to all the things that were current. And the interesting thing, not one of my feelings was about the here and now, not one of them. It was full of worry about things I had no control over. I was beside myself with anger and stress, trying to control them all too, like fighting every day. It was absolutely exhausting. The penny began to drop. Don't worry about something you can't influence. Put it on the shelf. Don't try and be something you're not. This is a lesson I learned at my first posting to Germany. Picture the scene. I was a 22-year-old female, second lieutenant, straight from Sandhurst, straight from training. And my first day of command of a platoon of 50 experienced soldiers was the first day of pre-deployment training to go to war in Iraq. So I was standing there on the parade square with 50 faces all looking at me for inspiration. I wasn't good enough. What would little old me bring to the party? I don't have enough knowledge, I don't have enough experience, I can't run fast enough, I can't lift enough, I can't down a pint quick enough. I couldn't see my value. But the day there was an incident and shoulders got sloped and ultimate responsibility fell to me to sort out, the day a career course needed organising, the day a report needed articulating for a deserved promotion, the day an understanding ear was needed, I realized that every member of that platoon had its place and brought something to the party. I thought this quote was particularly pertinent. It's not who you are that holds you back, but who you think you're not. And again, everyone has their strengths and weaknesses, and it's only when you accept everything you are and aren't, you truly succeed. I learned that you need to value yourself before you expect others to do so. Avoid limiting behaviors. There are often many perceived barriers that seem to get in our way when they actually aren't there at all. I like this quote. What's holding you back is the belief that something is holding you back, and sometimes we just need to get out of our own way. I'm not sure if anyone knows who this man is, but it's Sir Roger Bannister. And breaking the 4-minute mile became an absolute obsession amongst middle distance runners for years and years and years. And back in 1861, a time of 4.5 minutes was recorded. And then in 1923, a time of 4 minutes 10. And then in 1945, a Swede logged a time of 4 minutes 1. Doctors said that it's not only not possible for humans to run under 4 minutes, but it's also dangerous to your health. But in 1954, 25-year-old medical student here, just a few miles from my home here in Oxford, attempted the impossible.
Against the university, Roger Bannister limbers up for a planned attack on that 4-minute mile, never before achieved by man. From the start, teammate Chris Brasher sets a grueling pace, with Bannister hard on his heels and Chris Chataway waiting to take over. Now here comes Chataway, followed by Bannister. On they go. The 3/4 mile is reached in half a second over the planned schedule of 3 minutes. Could he do it now? Yes, lengthening his amazing stride, this was Bannister's answer. Watch his final 300-yard dash, first passing Chataway, then on, battling against unfavorable conditions, a crosswind and a sodden track. Up to the finishing line, time 3 minutes, 59.4 seconds, shattering the 4-minute mile, the Everest of athletic achievement. A great reception for the young medical student who had cut 2 whole seconds off Gunda Haag's world record set up 9 years ago.
But the interesting thing, and my point, is that once Bannister proved it was possible, he lifted the limits for all the others, and the record was absolutely battered by an Australian only a month later, and several people since. Visualize success. I'm sure we've all heard people talk about the fact that our brain can't process a negative. And if I say, don't think of a pink elephant, we're all thinking of one. It's the same with our plans, our dreams, and desired outcomes. Try not to think of what you don't want, but what you do want in order to start climbing those stairs of resilience. I realized I was a sucker for it, or not doing it, when purchasing this pair of Wellington boots. Perhaps quite a British example, although these boots are French. After years of being too tight to pay the best part of £400 for these wellies I wanted and to some extent needed for my job, I got fed up of my leaky, baggy, old, worn pair I had, and I had a little look on eBay. To my surprise, there was one pair that were just what I was after, and I was very particular. They needed to have a full zip, be leather lined, be a lady's fit, correct calf measurement, ladylike size 8, and half the RRP, yet hardly worn, of course. And my point here is that at no stage did I ever visualize success, but all the what ifs. What if they don't fit? What if it's a scam? What if I don't like them? Every other scenario possible than a nice new pair of fitting wellies. It made me realize I used to do that often. The third and final resilience fundamental. It's like one of those fault-finding flowcharts. Does the ignition light come on when you turn the key? No. So charge the battery. Or yes, turn to a manual page such and such. Much like, can I influence this? And therefore invest time and effort, yes or no? This is the third and final fundamental to climb those stairs of resilience. Does this help or does this hinder me? Need to protect ourselves. Have control over the decisions we're making and the company we keep and our mental and physical well-being. And the signposts that help me discover this fundamental are following. Take care of yourself. If I asked you the question, what makes you happy, would you know? Some people get that engrossed in the problem, issue, or challenge that they forget and then can't ever be in a place to grow. Understand what makes you happy and perform to the best version of you and do those things. I've learned now that it's not selfish. I know that I need to feel exercised. I need to be in the countryside. I need to laugh. I need to feel valued and feel fit to get beyond the survive step of those stairs. I particularly liked this quote. Talk to yourself as you would to someone you love. I don't know about you, but I've got an inner dialogue that is pretty cruel sometimes. Help others. To achieve this sense of feeling valued and a sense of purpose again that I had lost, following the loss of my career and such a rigid army structure, I knew that helping others was what I needed to do. And this came several fold in rebuilding my life. I set up a little campsite on the family farm and I encouraged and welcomed people to exit the rat race and come and enjoy the simple things in life again. I became a ski guide for the blind veterans and I was humbled every day at how they lived their lives in darkness without a moan or a groan. I became a shooting instructor, teaching autistic kids to shoot and giving people an experience in the countryside they wouldn't normally have. I became a leadership development instructor and consultant, one, developing people and making them feel more confident, and two, working with ex-military people again that were motivated and worked in the same way in which I did. I also became part of a charity called the On Course Foundation, which is a charity for wounded, injured and sick service personnel to recover through golf. It saved me at a low time when I was wearing a wig, I had no confidence and I was missing my sport. It allowed me to be with people that understood me and also had scars on their face or perhaps wearing a denture plate like me. I got to learn a new skill and a new sport again and have an aim again and work on a handicap and also to visualize success. And I was desperate to be the first lady to compete in the Simpson Cup, which was an on-course foundation event, the British members against our American counterparts. I went to qualifiers for 3 years unsuccessfully, but I stuck with my vision and I managed to get in the team. I've now got a passion for introducing others to the charity and hope it will change their lives for the better as it did mine. So all these things enabled me to answer the question everybody loved asking me when I'd lost my career in such a devastating way. Do you miss the army? Well, not anymore, because I've recreated all the things I missed in my new life. Surround yourself with positive people. When I first lost my hair, my friends would shake my hand and congratulate me. You've finally been cured of your gingerness, that was. Every cloud has a silver lining, Kate. You're not ginger anymore. I had a friend, Johnny, that used to come and visit me whilst on chemo. And he was moaning at the time, this particular time, his wife was on a course of 6 electrolysis beauty treatments to get rid of unwanted bikini line hair. And he said, look at the positive, Kate. The NHS have saved you £150. We need a sense of humour. We need Black military humour, and sarcasm directly influences our mood and our ability to recover from difficult situations. Laughter relieves physical tension and stress and relaxes our muscles, and it boosts our immune system. And I'm sure you all know yourself. Some people you feel comfortable around and they lift the room when they enter. And some are toxic and glass half empty kind of people. Surround yourself with the right positive people. So these are the signposts that I've discovered and I felt pointed me in the direction of that resilient mindset, enabled to climb the stairs of resilience and achieve these 3 fundamentals of understanding and accepting that shit happens, choosing where to focus your attention, and protecting yourself by asking that question: does this help me, my team, my family, or does it hinder me? One of my favorite all-time statements is that failure is feedback. Walt Disney got fired in his early days for not being creative enough, would you believe? Steve Jobs, the legendary founder of Apple, got sacked by his own company in 1985. And Bill Gates' first business failed drastically, and he later became a man worth 12 figures. Learning to overcome setbacks and challenges sets the conditions for success and confidence later in life. So as I started, I don't have all the answers at all, but I do now have some tools and some awareness, as you all do, to tackle inevitable, unknown challenges that are ahead, but also known ones. For me, replacing my denture plate for proper teeth one day, trying to buy the campsite from my parents in a sustainable way to support them in their retirement, running my campsite in a COVID-safe manner, training my willful puppy, working on my ever-increasing golf handicap, which for you non-golfers is a bad thing, and undoubtedly my biggest challenge, and indeed a total miracle, will be giving birth and raising my son, conceived by a donor embryo, due in 3 months' time. The end.